gosh. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to break down my 7.3 medium heavy action rod. And this rod right here, I've caught a lot of big ones on. Lots of big ones. It's actually a specific rod right here. And a vibrating jig is a very important technique as a professional bass angler. Catches a lot of big ones. You guys see that I throw a lot of them day in and day out. All around, whether it's the fall, springtime, it just tends to catch big ones. And it catches a lot of fish, allows you to be able to really cover a lot of water and be able to do that. And that is what I designed this rod for, for the most part. I have it for so many different other applications as well, but it's one of my favorite vibrating jig rods. It's a graphite rod, and it has that parabolic action like a lot of my rods do. Now, the thing with this is, again, on all of my casting rods, I have my hook hanger in the front. In my spinning rods, I have them towards the back, and I'll talk about that on a different time. But that, for me, I'm either gonna put it right there, or I'm gonna put him right on the reel itself, which I've said this before. Probably don't get caught up with this. I've nicked my line, but it's not that bad. If you have a decent amount of distance between your line and stuff, and you don't want to jack up your stuff, like, you probably don't want to put it there. So get in the habit of actually using the hook hanger. It will scuff up if you're, running around and you're hitting waves and stuff. It will scuff up a little bit right there, but overall, it's not going to hurt the overall rod itself. Now, as far as the 7.3 medium heavy action, this rod, it basically has enough backbone in the back that it lets those fish load up. It does have that a little bit of a lighter action going down the blank more, where the 7.3 heavy, it bumps up and has more, a little bit more backbone. This rod bends down, the bend profile bends down a little bit further. And when that fish bites, the big thing with the vibrating jig is you want to have something that loads up. You don't want, again, it's almost like a graphite composite. I could get away with a graphite rod. I went back and forth on a graphite composite and a graphite rod for throwing a vibrating jig because so many people do use a graphite composite. But I felt like the overall positives and the negatives, overall negatives of a graphite composite rod versus a graphite rod in a vibrating jig scenario was I could get away a lot better with this. The biggest thing is I can be way more precise with my casting with a graphite rod. Thing is, you do want to have the right action, and that's what I designed it for. Now, this is not only a vibrating jig rod. This is a multiple different things. I throw a big 1 ounce spinnerbait when I'm trying to make long cast offshore or in big grass flat areas. Again, this is sort of that 7.3. When I designed a 7.3 action rod, or a 7.3 length is my rod, the key was to sort of hit it in between. Like, I was able to make my long cast, and I was still able to roll cast and be accurate up there shallow. So that's what I did with my 7.2, my 7.3 lengthwise on those rods. So when you see that, that's what I did it for. Sort of like the perfect in between, and that's what I use those for when I'm trying to go, where I'm trying to fish boat docks. I'll use my 7-footer. Or if I'm not really truly dialed in yet, or if I'm just a beginner and learning how to skip, I will use a 7-foot, my 7-foot medium heavy casting rod with my vibrating jigs around those boat docks, or if I'm trying to get it in tighter places, that's when I use and bump it down. Now, this is also one of my favorite rods, the rod I use for a very specific technique, and I've won a big tournament, multiple big tournaments on it. Actually, this is the hair jig that I caught him on, and it is a hair jig offshore fishing. This is the rod that I use. I use 14-pound line most of the time. If I'm throwing it deeper than 20 feet, I will use 12. I'll put that back there, and I've won 2 tournaments actually here on my home lake, Lake Chickamauga, throwing a hair jig just like that one right there. And that is a very important technique. When you have to have the right action of a rod. For me, that parabolic action again allows me to really load that fish up. When they bite it, you reel down into them and you set the hook. That's a big deal. And we're gonna have some more tip content. I'm going to try to break down more as we go on later on in the channel and we get into the summertime. I'm gonna try to break down individual techniques for you guys and sort of diving deep into some of that, where to find the fish, how to use the bait. And we're hopefully gonna knock some of that stuff out for you guys here pretty soon, and that way we can have it on this channel this summertime when those fish are out there dinged up, ready to chomp on a hair jig. So along with that, light Texas rigs, so it's really a multiple different technique rod. It's an all-purpose rod, but the thing is, it's basically it's very similar to my 7-footer, but it has a little bit more length, and it ultimately gives you a little bit longer casting. I will throw this rod on, you know, like if I'm throwing a HD flashy swimmer on a swim bait, I'll throw that rod. I'll even throw like a finesse swim baiting, same sort of stuff. Very versatile rod if you're looking for making longer casts. If you're on the boat a lot, this is another rod that you might want to add to your collection. If you're fishing from the bank more, a 7-foot medium heavy might be your perfect rod action for that. So anyway, diving into it, definitely one that I've caught a lot of big fish on. My 7.3 medium heavy action rod, man, it's definitely one I can't live without. Hopefully you guys got a few of your questions answered. Along with that, as always, drop a comment below. If you didn't quite understand something or have a question, I'll try, as always, to respond, because I really, truly appreciate you guys following along on this content. And let me know if there's a specific question or specific video that you want to see on the channel. We're always looking for ideas. We really appreciate you guys following along. See y'all next time.